Today I fricked up. Apposited 3076 says. Today I fricked up be completely disregarding an important time when my BF was vulnerable. I love my boyfriend very much. But we butt heads all the time because we often both want to be right and are desperate to be understood and do not put much effort into being understanding. This obviously means our arguments do not go too smoothly, but we know this and we're trying to work on it. He is very straight-laced, doesn't drink, smoke, go to clubs or bars. I'm not like super wild, but I enjoy going out from time to time and love to get tipsy with my friends and have a nice smoke sesh from time to time. When we first started dating, he hated that I smoked. Even suggested he would end things with me if I continued to. So I decided to stop smoking because it wasn't super important to me and it obviously was for him and I just didn't want to lose him and wanted to avoid the conflict. Since then, we've talked about it more where I've expressed I only stopped BC he said head end things and I don't want to stop doing something I enjoy just because he has a negative perception of it. At this point, I was thinking that he had never been around it fr. Just grew up in a strict household in a strict place. Where for me, recreational weed use is literally the norm. He asked me if I had smoked since our last conversation about it, where he said I could do it if I wanted and just not to tell him, and I had, so I told him yes. And he responded, he felt very disappointed in me. Obviously I hated being told that. Like I'm an adult. I didn't lie to him, I didn't betray him. If I want to smoke weed once in a while, I should be able to do that without fearing my boyfriend is going to get mad at me for it. But he finally dropped all of the law as to why he hates weed. He went through some family trauma with someone that was addicted to it and took advantage of his family when he was young, causing much harm. When he told me this, I was still caught up in being told what I did was disappointing and kept asking him to just have an open mind about changing his perception so that it didn't hold so much power and didn't have to be an issue between us. Obviously, I missed a very big moment where he was telling me something he hadn't told anyone and had a very emotional effect on him. I wish I had just put my own feelings aside and been there for him. I know. I made him feel so invalidated and disregarded, which breaks my heart. Obviously I know that my experience and relationship with weed is not at all connected to that family member, but he cannot separate the two, which I understand. I literally very rarely smoke, maybe once every 3 months, and always socially. Even without knowing this, I of course would never have it around him. But I just hated that I wasn't doing something I enjoyed just because he had discomfort with it when it wasn't something around him at all. Now I know more, I know how deep of a thing this is for him. And I want to be there for him. I know how men feel about never sharing their feelings, and when they do, how receiving a poor response can do serious harm. So I don't know what I can do to fix how I responded to him being vulnerable with me and sharing that info when I was so caught up in my own feelings. MF, were both in our early/mid 20s too long, didn't read, missed a very important time my BF opened up to me because I was caught up in my own feelings of being offended by him. He doesn't want me to smoke weed, and he let me know the traumatic reason behind why. And I didn't acknowledge it at all. Emphaticalirang says. You can bring it up again. Hey, I've been thinking about what you shared. I appreciate your honesty. It made me feel zzz. Quick question 2559 says. I've done that several times. It's actually really healthy, There is no statute of limitations on expressing your feelings on any given subject matter. Apposited 3076 says. True. I did come back and apologize a few minutes later. He actually ended up apologizing for making me feel like I was forced into quitting. He said he partially accepted my apology because he was still really hurt by how I responded, but I appreciated it. He ended up going home. Anima Ted Hoki says. You two seem wildly incompatible. Every improvement 28 says, I don't think you missed an opportunity because I don't think you were ready yet to react any differently in that moment. But you learned something from that momentary interaction that will likely change your perspective from this day forward, and that's some strong positive growth. The fact that you can step back and realize it was hurtful and are mature enough to own this, you're ready to take on the opportunity to address it and begin moving forward. Bring it up again, but don't say why you didn't react initially, because that will just negate some of owning up to it. Don't even bring your feelings into the fray, as you'll risk leaning into excuses. Even if unintentional, just say, sorry. Tell him how grateful you are he trusts you enough to share that you hope he can continue to be that open with you if it helps him heal. But he's not obligated, and most important, second only to the apology, is to tell him you love him very much. Keep it that simple. And if he's ready to respond back, great, but expect the possibility of a less desirable reaction. Anywhere simple. Silent acknowledgement to maybe a bit of biting anger that has brewed a bit since then. Let either be. And don't talk it to death. Basically, just as your initial response was what you needed / knew how to do at the time, accept however he responds is what he knows at this moment in time. This isn't to negate what hurt you, but I know you know setting it aside for the moment isn't going to do irreparable damage. If in the end, you still need to address what hurts about his words to you, you'll be able to find a way to address it with so much more empathy sometime in the future. Honestly, most people come here to admit something they know they did wrong in hopes people will give them justifications and validate their behavior enough to feel good with taking a pass on owning their part. Sounds like you've got your shit together enough, so good on you. Know that this won't take his pain away immediately, but that's not the goal. He's obviously just broken the seal, step 1 towards healing. So really, your goal here is simple: acknowledge his feelings and show him you truly care. Scary Themud Maid says, him having a valid trauma and not wanting to be with someone that smokes does not negate the truth that you should be free to enjoy the things you enjoy. But it also takes honesty with yourself. He was honest with you, no matter how reasonable anyone else sees it. Relationships take compromise, but you need to be honest with yourself, because if that compromise is going to lead you to feel resentful, that's not a compromise you can make and not have to pay for in the future. Honestly, it doesn't sound like either of you are quite mature enough for a relationship. And it sounds like this is one of those relationships where you figure out what you can and can't live with if you try to force yourself into a compromise. r/today I fricked up. Shin 280,891 says, today I fricked up be sending a pre-hire logical reasoning test URL to my GF. After applying for another 50th job, I got my third employer response, and this time from what looked like a great company, but it was 5 in the morning and I failed to realize that the pre-employment logical reasoning test URL was unique. The URL was apparently sent by a Telegram bot, so no human was involved at this late/early hour. I clicked the URL and decided to complete the test before calling it a day, but the second I opened the test, I found the questions so amusing that I decided to share the URL with my girlfriend before completing the test myself first. I decided not to screenshot the whole thing because it would take quite a few pictures to cover all questions. I added something along the lines of, look at these amusing tests they are using these days, despite the late hour. My girlfriend was not sleeping either, so she reacted to my Telegram message with a laughing emoji, and I hoped that would be it. But right after I completed the test on my laptop, I opened Telegram, and sure enough, I saw an automated message in that bot chat informing me that I failed the test, which had been sent 7 minutes before I actually completed the test. I do not know if I would have passed it, but I scored 27/30, whereas my GF scored 22/30. Now I do not feel sleepy at all anymore, and I'm low-key devastated. Should have known better. Too long, didn't read. Today I fricked up by sending a pre-hire logical reasoning test URL to my GF. Before completing the test myself first, my GF completed and failed the test before I did, and now I have one less job offer to worry. Sao says. Sounds like you failed logical reasoning by sharing the link. Nubis account says. An employer that determines hiring based on a test like that doesn't sound great to work for, and it was sent via Telegram, messaging app used often by extortionists, scammers, and criminals because it is untraceable. The job sounds sketchy. Wosof Milife 63831 says. Tests are often part of job interviews, but using Telegram is certainly fishy. Morsome Forever says. Sounds like a phishing scam. Etzel 1200 says. What country are you in that Telegram bots are involved in hiring decisions? Bob says. Looking at the ops post history, they appear to be in Russia, which would explain Telegram more. New account 721 says. Telegram bot with logic test? I believe you dodged a bullet, friend. Cute ad 2665 says. The job sounds sketchy AF. I feel like it was probably a phishing scam. I recommend that you look at r/scams or look at the hiring scams, since they are relatively common nowadays. Speedblitzk says. That doesn't sound legit anyways. Sounds like your GF helped you dodge a bullet. Wosof Milife 63831 says. Your GF model is outdated. You need a new model with better logical reasoning. Masasi says. Send them a message and tell them. Kinkista CII says. Don't dwell on it. It's done, and there's nothing you can do to change it. Focus on the other job applications you have out there. Carlin says. Sounds like a scam anyway, so you might have dodged a bullet. Inna says. Look at the bright side, you wouldn't get it at the first place anyway. Annual Entertainer 44 says. No, you should have known better. That's all for this video, thank you for watching, please subscribe.